For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ross Noderft. I'm the Executive Director of the Alliance for Digital Innovation. We have been working with GSA in partnership for a very long time, and specifically around the OneGov, this OneGov initiative and the particular event for several months now, and we're very excited to have this discussion with the team. So before we get started, I'll tell you a little bit of background of what ADI is, what ADI does, and why we're even having this discussion today. So Alliance for Digital Innovation was set up several years ago with the express intent of enabling government to access the technology that they need when they need it. Our membership cares deeply about partnering with our government brethren who are really providing the services and mission support that through the technology that our membership is providing. So we want to help break down all of the barriers, whether it's legal barriers, policy barriers. We are working in partnership to surface some of the tension and bring and do whatever we can to help mitigate and knock that out of the way. So we're very excited about OneGov and the initiative. But OneGov's not new, maybe a different name, but it's something that has been around for several years. So I was in government in 2015, and IT category management was the hot ticket, the hot item back then. I worked with some of those folks looking at IT category management in 2015, and frankly, the mission is still the same. Government wants to understand how much it buys, of what it buys, and where it buys it. It should be a fairly, you'd think it would be a fairly simple thing to tackle, but it's not. It's very difficult because agencies own their own risks, they own their own environments, they're constantly changing and evolving. It's a big organizational challenge, and I know that the folks at GSA have been working diligently on it for many years. And this OneGov is a continuation of that effort, amongst other things, but it's a continuation of that effort. And frankly, I think it's important for the government to understand what they are acquiring, so that they have trust that the vendors and the community that is supporting them are doing so in a way that's open and transparent, and it creates a longer term trust and partnership and relationship. So OneGov, what is it? What are we doing? Why we're here today? So we're lucky enough to have a couple folks who are running the program to come up and talk to us. So Larry and Kyra, if y'all could come up and grab your seats up here, and I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and then turn it over to you guys for the initial discussion. Let me make sure the slide's up. So we're lucky because Larry is the Assistant Commissioner in the Office of Information Technology category. So he is focused on the IT category specifically, and Kyra runs the IT VMO, the office that is helping to actively shape OneGov and the partnerships that many ADI member companies have, and many member companies are looking at right now. So with that, I'll turn it over to you guys for the fireside chat, and I believe we're going to have some audience Q&A at the end.
Thanks, Ross.
Yep.
So I had to look at the slide for a second because last week one of my colleagues was at a presentation, and underneath his picture was the words speaker name, or were the words speaker name. So we now call him speaker name. Thank you all for having us.
Yeah, I'm afraid to look because my head is big in real life. Okay.
You look great.
It's huge up there, but hey, everybody.
So Ross, thank you for the background. In fact, my office title is still the Office of Information Technology category. So the concept of category management really runs through everything that we're doing. So Kyra and I are going to talk a little bit about where this thing came from, and Ross really set the stage nicely for that. So let me start with where it actually began.
The origin story.
Yeah, before executive orders, before consolidation language, even before buy as one. The IT VMO, the IT Vendor Management Office, which is Kyra's office, started with the data. So we analyzed government-wide spend across major software and cloud categories, looking at FPDS data, contract vehicles, expiration timelines, and pricing variances and agency footprints. And what we found was structured fragmentation. I almost should stop my feet about the structured fragmentation. For identical or near identical products, agencies were paying materially different prices. Now, as a taxpayer, that should concern us all because it's tax dollars that are paying these prices at different agencies, vastly different prices for the same item. And that's a concern. Your tax dollars shouldn't be wasted. So we saw, and the structural part, we saw expiration cliffs clustered across multiple CFO Act agencies, meaning that leverage existed with the expiration cliffs. Leverage existed, but it wasn't being aggregated. It wasn't being taken advantage of. It wasn't being leveraged. We saw duplicative contracts with the same OEM, separate pricing, separate cybersecurity clauses, separate reporting requirements. So that fragmentation just wasn't just inefficient. It actually weakened our leverage. And it weakened transparency, and it weakened accountability.
So Larry makes a lot of good points, and Ross did a good setup in terms of what we're focused on. We need to know what we're using, what we're spending, where there are opportunities to address some of that fragmentation. And as was mentioned, I lead the IT vendor management office. We were stood up about 5 years ago and endorsed by OMB CIO Council, CAO Council, for the purpose of addressing some of that fragmentation, right? So category management exists, and it's a little bit unique from the other categories in that there were different contract vehicles in different agencies, right? And so what the ITVMO was able to do is work across those programs and identify the best in breed, right? So what are the strongest IT procurement practices that could be amplified and foot stomped across agencies. And because we were endorsed by OMB, we were able to go out and represent the government in our conversations with OEMs. Admittedly, we were a small shop, so we had to go where the money was, right? And focus on the areas that provided the biggest impact, the biggest benefit to government. And we have a lot of notes because there's a lot to share, and we could just talk because we do that. But I want to make sure we leave here with some relevant information. And what we were able to do is go across the agencies and identify what the shared challenges were. Where were they having the pain points? Where were those cliffs that agencies could be partnering together and leverage? And so by the time we sat down with the Microsofts, the Salesforce, the Googles, we had government spend data. We had agency footprint analysis. We were able to have data-driven decisions. And it really changed the perspective and it changed the conversation. We weren't talking about what a single agency needed. We were talking about what was needed across government. And so while this OneGov thing is something that's been very prolific in the last year or so, it has foundations in really agency needs, data, opportunities. And so this gives us a teeth to really focus in the areas that agencies have communicated to us the opportunities. And from the work that was done, the birth of OneGov emerged, and here we are.
And I think it's important to note that Kyra's IT vendor management office, you'll hear us say ITVMO, was not, even though it's hosted in GSA, it, as she mentioned, endorsed by OMB, it's funded by if you think of the FAR Council, 3 of the major agencies on the FAR Council are NASA, NIH, and GSA. And those 3 agencies co-fund the IT vendor management office with revenues from the big GWACs. So that also means that it's not just a GSA thing. It is
Absolutely.
truly a government-wide thing. So, but back to the data. So the data made it clear that really it wasn't just about inconsistent pricing. I stomped my foot about the taxpayers paying the same price, but it's more than that. It's a structural challenge. So if we wanted consistent pricing, consistent cybersecurity terms, consistent accountability, that structure had to change. And that's where privity of contract became really central and vital. Under OneGov, GSA negotiates a direct contract with the OEM using the multiple award schedule. So the multiple award schedule is the foundation of OneGov. So not dozens of fragmented relationships, but one enterprise baseline. And it's important to clarify something for you, for this audience. OneGov does not remove agency authority. Agencies still issue orders. Federal acquisition regulations, the FAR, still applies, and competition requirements still apply. But what changes is the baseline. Pricing and core terms are aligned up front in the negotiations with the OEM. That provides that baseline for agencies to make their orders from.
Yeah, and to revisit the fact that this is based on conversations we were having with agencies. These were the opportunities, inconsistencies, challenges with getting to the publisher, just kind of misplaced focus. And so OneGov really aims to shift to the direct OEM relationship, not remove the broader ecosystem. Agencies rely on the partners in the space. We want to do no harm to them. So we are not looking to complicate their abilities to provide the IT solutions that their agencies need. It really just is changing the dynamic and aligning the contract and the priority where it exists. So OEMs are looking at and responsible for pricing, licensing terms, cybersecurity posture, performance standards. Those are the things that should rely with the OEM. And we're working through folks in the middle who are making that process complicated. In addition, the ecosystem exists and there's value. So resellers, integrators, other partners in the network are still essential. We have integration needs, we have training needs, we have processing of personnel, change management, and other mission tailored necessities that we want the agencies to have access to. We're talking with the OEMs now about reimagining those relationships. Perhaps there's subcontractor opportunities, CTAs, other ways that we can bring this to bear. And it's happening in pockets. So we believe it exists. We understand it's a bit of a pivot, but we believe that if we work together, we can support agencies' needs and bring forward better value to the citizens and better contractual outcomes, I think, for everybody.
So a good recent example of how this can work and how it acknowledges the role of an integrator or a partner is a recent with CMS, a recent case. CMS transitioned to the OneGov cloud acquisition model using Amazon Web Services with support from GDIT. So it was not a displacement of the integrator, it was a realignment of the integrator. The Amazon Web Services was directly accountable for the pricing and the platform, but the integrator delivered their key integration, implementation, and mission support using a OneGov contract.
And they were able to do it in 60 days. So we're working with CMS and talking to them about the process. The new applications to the cloud happened in less than 2 months. The result was millions in savings that they were able to immediately redirect to other citizen services. We're excited about what we can achieve when we partner with industry and with agencies. And create some new opportunities with OneGov. So this is a great example, and it demonstrates something important to us, and I believe important to you, that the direct relationships are important, and integration support and other pieces are complementary, but also valuable to the ecosystem. So we can all, I think, exist in this space with this direct contract vision that's integral to OneGov. The OEM holds the prime contract, and that is very important in this process. Integrators, small businesses, other partners can be subcontractors within that framework. I think the CMS is an example of how we can do this together, do it well, and maintain the right resources in our ecosystem. And what we see is higher value services and not these transactional license pass-through experiences, really, that are happening far too often in the federal space.
So one note, IT service providers, IT professional services providers, GWAC contract holders that have a contract to provide a service that requires acquisition of products like software, like cloud. The FAR permits, if the agency says you acquire this on my behalf, then those service providers can take advantage of the OneGov price on behalf of the agency that they're on contract to. So that's consistent with the FAR, and it does support the OneGov model.
And it's a great opportunity. And I would encourage folks to explore that. And I want to talk a little bit about industry gains, right? The WIFM, what's in it for me? How do we incentivize large OEMs to do something very different, right? It's been 10 or 15 years that this model has been in place. And we recognize that folks are in business to do good business. And so it has to make sense. And we've spent a lot of time thinking about those incentives. And one of those that we believe is important is larger consolidated demand signals, right? So we have to do our part in this equation. If we want you all to treat us as an enterprise, we have to act like one. So there's interest in centralizing demand, reducing the number of interactions that you have to have, the number of contracts that you have to have with agencies. Everybody's a special snowflake, I know. And in some instances, that's true. So we're talking about common goods, right? We are not doing everything. We're not boiling the ocean. There are certain products that are pretty standard, and this is where we want to focus. From an industry perspective, standardized compliance expectations, reduced administrative burden on your process, faster time to award. So we believe that there are opportunities for everybody to win in this space. And early participants, there's positioning and visibility. We're seeing some of that come out. But also, you all can help us learn. So we've been very transparent about not having it all figured out at the start. So our early partners are helping us realize things that we maybe need to revisit and additional incentives and tweaks we may need to make it make sense for you.
That's why events like this are important to us, because we are learning as we go. We're moving fast, but and we've had, of course, a lot of publicity and a lot of big impact over the past 8, 9, 10. What is it? It's March now. 11 months.
Yeah.
So
almost our birthday.
Yeah. So, but we really value the opportunity to hear from you, to engage, to get your perspectives, because we also, and we've had a lot of one-on-ones with industry partners where we are, they're helping us to understand the challenges of this pivot, and recognizing, how difficult it is for a company that doesn't do these things for themselves and counts on resellers and integrators to change their business model. And we're listening.
Yeah.
We're working with them. We're actually partnering on pilots to help both them and us learn how to move forward. So just to say that OneGov is not anti-reseller. We are anti-fragmentation. We're all about consolidating and leveraging that buying power that I talked about. But small business participation remains central. OEM primes are expected to demonstrate meaningful subcontracting and partnering consistent with federal small business goals. So that doesn't shrink the industrial base. It strengthens it by clarifying accountability while preserving the value-added services that small businesses provide. I'm a former CISO. I'm a cyber guy from way back. The federal government, when we don't have a direct contract with the publisher and there's a major vulnerability, a 0-day, it's kind of challenging when your privity of contract is with a third party. It's kind of challenging to get that attention from that publisher that is responsible for that code. So one of the benefits of OneGov, honestly, is the privity of contract direct with the OEM, direct with the publisher of that code. Because, surprise, surprise, 0-day vulnerabilities actually do happen. They're real. They're happening now. And we want to be able to deal with the government, not just deal with the publishers, not just from a policy perspective, but also from a contractual perspective.
And it's working, right? We hold ourselves very accountable to the efficacy of what we're proposing. And we're honest with ourselves about the challenges that it presents governmentally for us and for you. And still we do it because there's value there. To date, and the numbers are actually a little bigger than this, we actually have realized 800, I can't even say it straight, $800 million in savings since the program's rollout last year. Savings that have come to fruition through agencies taking advantage of offers that we have, OneGov deals. There are 20 active deals now in different spaces, from cyber to workplace productivity, AI, lots of opportunities. And we're talking with the agencies about what the needs are. So they are starting to drive the offers that you see, because we want to meet the need. We are not driving demand, we're reflecting it. And so we're seeing things come together. Treasury's $1 billion BPA with ID.me is a direct contract with OneGov. With MASS, I should clarify, we're using GSA's multiple award schedule, but under the OneGov framework, which is a huge success for us. That was awarded in under 45 days. The Department of Transportation, you maybe read about that, migrating from Microsoft to Google using a OneGov deal. It was an $89 million deal that they were able to launch in 22 days. They're working to migrate 50,000 employees over, pretty major endeavor. And they suggest they'll save $150 million in 3 years. So this is working. These are huge opportunities for government. Larry talked a little bit about CMS, which is a really exciting opportunity for us. We expect it will be for you, given that they leverage GDIT. They're modernizing their infrastructure and delivering major opportunities for immediate reinvestment. So these are operational shifts, both in how agencies do business and how industry does business, but both are doing it and it's working. So we wanted to share some of these successes and share some pending changes and manage expectations about how things are going. When we launched, it was about speed, and we talked a little bit about that, and it was about numbers, right? We really wanted to get a good number of deals out there to demonstrate that we're working, that we have partners, that this thing is real. And now we're prepared to pivot to really double down on direct contracts. These are the opportunities that will bring lasting results to agencies. And so that is important to us, to standardize those baselines, to coordinate the renewals, to address some of that fragmentation that we see, and leverage the buying power of the federal enterprise to secure better pricing for government and standardized processes for you all, and address really what are structural inefficiencies. So moving from these episodic discounts that you're seeing with the limited time offers that are providing really significant savings for agencies that are important, but admittedly, they're a subset of a catalog. What we want to do is provide best pricing across the catalog. And that's what OneGov aims to do. And we're starting to do that and looking to do more of it. So increasing our leverage as a federal enterprise with millions of customers, consolidation, addressing structural inefficiency, and moving away from those promotional pricing that we love and agencies love. So you'll still see it, but we're looking at the long play.
So we're moving from with data-driven insight, as Kyra said, onboarding those OEMs onto the multiple award schedule, aggregating agency requirements, consolidated buying. We do that in the hardware area right now, and that is something. Kyra talked about the benefits to industry of not having to understand the demand signals from multiple separate agencies separately. If we can succeed in aggregating the buying and bringing it together, then we really are, I think, doing industry a service that also reduces your cost and therefore makes it easier to reduce the cost to the agencies and the taxpayer. So that, in its maturity, will result in a mature enterprise ordering discipline. And we're working with OMB on guidance where appropriate. But adoption ultimately follows value. So we have to succeed in these initial steps in order to create that value. But the numbers right now, as Kyra shared, over 800 million in savings. So we believe that we are creating the value, we are providing the value, and that that'll give us the foundation to move towards the next stage of maturity.
Absolutely. The long-term outcome really is straightforward, that we need transparent pricing and consistent pricing. We need standardized cybersecurity expectations because risks are real and we want to mitigate against that as much as possible. We want to reduce duplication. There are lots of similar contracts and even within a single agency and certainly across government for various pricing for very similar items. We want to address accountability. We really want our contracts to be where the risk is so that we can easily mitigate and address it. And we want a more resilient ecosystem. And we believe that we can do that. OneGov is really operationalizing the ITVMO's charter to identify what is happening best across government, to amplify that for the use of all agencies, and to work very closely with our partners. You all are helping us see how to get there. And it's challenging for everybody, but we've had conversations with some folks in the room, and we're listening to what you say. So we encourage you to reach out, share how you might do this with us, inform the process, be part of it, so that everybody can benefit from your insights. And we don't want to see that the federal government is negotiating against itself, and that's what happens, the way things are operating. And we think there's an opportunity with your help to do better.
So we're being followed by a great panel, but in summary from our little chat, OneGov started with data. The data revealed fragmentation, which led to enterprise conversations, and now it's evolving into an enterprise operating model.
One government, one strategy. Together we can do it with your help, we can do it even better.
So we've covered the origin story, the structural shift, and where this is headed. And now we would absolutely welcome your questions. Yes, sir. We got microphones.
Test. There.
Brian Stoffer, Paperless Innovations. Larry, I know you talked about fragmentation, but you're also a big believer in shared services. And I'd love to give you an opportunity to talk about shared services and the role of standardization, common problems, common solutions, helps to break down those barriers and provides better data, better processes on an enterprise level. Talk about that if you would, please.
Yep. So different conversation than OneGov, but shared services are so the GSA provides, for instance, U.S. Access, where we have a shared service. We aggregate the identity management for the entire executive branch, and that means it's consistent with the OneGov concept because the largest agencies pay the same cost per card, per identity as the smallest agencies. Therefore, those small agencies get to leverage the buying power of the largest agencies. So certainly shared services. We are not in a place yet where I think we could provide enterprise office communications suite as a shared service. Don't know that we want to, but with OneGov, what we're moving towards is that those enterprise software packages would we'd get that same leverage of buying power across the federal executive branch through the aggregation of the demand.
So in information technology, and you mentioned your CISO experience, which was very valuable for this conversation, the FedRAMP process and the fact that, if you're going to go department wide, you got to face the fact that every component then has to do their own ATO, go through a tremendous amount of burden and overhead just to get to the point where you could extend value across an enterprise. Talk to us a little bit about where you see that maybe going to simplify and streamline the approval of a service that could be ramped up across an entire department through a standardized FedRAMP approval process.
So what I'd really like to do is actually defer that to my colleagues from the FedRAMP Program Management Office. But you actually illustrated a point that, you know, the law currently requires that individual ATO, that agency ATO. So there's perhaps there's an opportunity for legislative engagement to help streamline that process and permit more sharing, more so you know that's that shared service idea.
A related question. Okay. Oh, hi, Sherry Caddy, Savannah River National Lab. Related question. FedRAMP. I was excited to see GSA announce in January that there's a pathway to CMMC for non-DoD procurement. So how does your OneGov like mash up with FedRAMP, CMMC, all of these cyber standards? Is that your office or is it a different place in GSA?
So the announcement that you saw in January was the GSA CIO saying for GSA contracts, here's the standards and they're CMMC-like standards. Now, what I will say is that CMMC, because our biggest customer is the Department of War. So CMMC is in GSA's contracts. In fact, I published a blog on the 12th of February. So just last month, about 3 weeks ago, on CMMC, and in the IT category, it helps industry partners understand how to use CMMC, how to be ready for CMMC, but the requirement for CMMC it still exists at the task order level. So it's a high bar to say everybody who wants to get on GSA has to meet this CMMC bar when their customer may be you know a city in Massachusetts that doesn't have quite the same standards and quite the same requirements. So companies need to understand how CMMC applies to them, how they can be prepared for it, and if they're going to bid on task orders for the Department of War, then they need to be ready to be compliant.
I'll just, last comment, say that the most confusion I hear is around FedRAMP and CMMC, and do I need both? And is there reciprocity? Is that a goal? Is it going to happen here?
I almost see them as apples and oranges, but maybe it's more like oranges and tangerines because they're certainly very related. So that is a great question. We could go down many rabbit holes on that one. So I want to defer.
Hello, Gisa with SAIC. I guess a comment, it can be a question, but more so a comment around, the whole system integrator and the OEMs, right? And the confusion that I guess is consistently, it's going away, but maybe still not gone away completely. So if we use the example of the CMS opportunity where GDIT in essence recommended, I guess, the government going to OneGov to get access to AWS, right? Then you have the second example of DOT where they wanted to implement Google. They chose Google, and Google, in essence, selected an integrator that came in and is doing assisting Google with the integration. So I guess that's where, integrators can't really understand like who is your end customer now, right? Am I going and I need to be aligned, and which most integrators are aligned with some of the most OEMs, but am I integrating myself, aligning myself to the OEMs because the work is going to come through the OEMs, or is it the traditional thing that we've been seeing for years on end, right? That my end customer is the government.
Yeah, so great question. And we are in a period of transition, clearly, because both of those models exist. A task order could come from an agency, I want this product, and the example where the agency purchases the product, and the OEM partners in the way that Kyra described. The OEM partners with an integrator to provide those vital services. But we also still have major IT professional services contracts. We just awarded the first pool of Alliant 3, and agencies will go to those service providers, and with enterprise-wide IT professional services needs, where software packages, cloud packages are a necessary part of that, and it's not necessarily one single software package. So then you've got the complexity of that integration, and that's where it's highly appropriate for the agency to go directly to the service provider, and the service provider to acquire, using OneGov on behalf of the agency, the various software packages that are needed to create that enterprise solution. So it's a bit of both. I don't see either one going away fully. I mean, the traditional lawyer's answer, right? It depends. And I'm not a lawyer.
Hey, Jason Miller, Federal News Network. Two clarifications, if you could. The first, on the 800 million in savings, that's either a cost avoidance, or is that true savings, meaning, hey, this price the agency was paying was X, now it's X minus a percentage? And then is it also based on the schedule prices previously that the vendor was charging? So you see a lot of in the OneGov deals, 80%, up to 80% off, right? So clarify that. And then also on the CMS example, Larry, did CMS contract directly with AWS, or did they go through like a VAR? What we've seen with a lot of the AI deals, they're going through Carousel. They're not going directly to the OEM. Now, I know that's a in the future thing, but like, I think some clarification would be helpful on that, because when you say they went through AWS and then to GDIT, there's a lot of us who go, did they?
Yes.
Well, can you clarify? But okay, you can.
Yeah. So to start with the CMS example, AWS is actually a direct contract with MAS. So they went directly, GDIT worked on behalf. They can buy from AWS on MAS in support of the agency. So that was a direct contract with AWS. We did not use a reseller. You make a good point that the majority of OneGov deals currently are leveraging existing MAS contracts that were modified to present that discounted price for some period of time using a reseller, sometimes, very often, Carosoft. In terms of the cost savings, and that's a good question. And I would say in some cases it's both, or could be interpreted as such. The CMS example, it was cost avoidance. They were able to get lower prices and redirect that funding somewhere immediately. In some cases, contracts are modified to reduce pricing that was currently there in a more traditional cost savings model. So, but you raise a point, and we want to be transparent about that.
So the big chunk of the 800 million that we reported is, using those OneGov prices, those $1 deals, and then comparing that price to what it would have cost for that agency to have purchased retail for the number of users. So it's that's exactly. So perfect question. Thank you.
Both are good. There's not a question of whether cost avoidance or saving, but I think it's also clear because we as a community have a tendency to talk everything as savings when avoidance is sometimes just as important. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
We have time for two more questions. One over here. Yeah, Grace.
I apologize to Kale, Powertrain. We're both a VAR and an OEM, so we kind of see both sides of it, which can be challenging. And one of the questions I had is our customers are obviously looking for the best pricing. And with appropriations law and the way their budgets are, they can only fund 1 year at a time. Yet if I get the 3-year deal with AWS or Azure, it's like 1.3 or 4, versus paying, each year separately. So are you addressing that in OneGov? Can you get that buying of that 3-year discount, even though the agency only has that 1 year funding at a time?
Can I ask a question of you, Paul? So we hear that a lot, and it is it's a challenge, right, for government, the limitation in the funding. We've done some research. We never not execute the option, right? I mean, you're going to get the full use of the full contract. So we're trying to have that conversation. It's a little bit of a pickle because we're working to change. I mean, we'd love to change appropriations law. I might win the lottery before it happens. So we'd love to talk to you all about, the data suggests that when you enter into these multi-year contracts, you get it, right? You get the full length of the contract. How do we get you all to recognize that, to price it similarly for us? Because you're essentially locked into a 3-year deal. Yeah, we need to pay you over time, but we will. So the short answer is that's a tough challenge to address. We're trying. We'd love to do it. We know that's the more straightforward approach, but not the fastest.
All right, any closing questions?
Hi, Sean Connolly from Zscaler. Full disclosure, before coming to Zscaler, I was at CISA for 10 years. About 5 years ago, Larry and I were deep in the trenches working on some COVID stuff for Zero Trust. So Larry, thank you for coming up here. On the theme of cybersecurity, you talked about trying to get consistency across the different contracts. So if there was something like OMB directive or maybe something else, CISA, like policy guidance, there's ways that you can consider aligning with that or helping agencies through OneGov to help meet those type of directives?
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, absolutely. Binding operational directives, for example, and the fact that we certainly do meet with OMB on a regular basis, and yes, we talked about sort of the initial thrust of OneGov was those largest footprint, most commonly used, most widely used products, software packages that where we could make the most difference by getting that consistent pricing and consistent terms and conditions. But to your point, we CDM, continuous diagnostics and mitigation. That's a classic example of a target-rich environment for a OneGov approach, because you have a policy directive that says agencies need to use these approved tools. Everybody needs to buy them, and they're on GSA. So yeah, that's an example of where a OneGov approach could certainly make an impact.
Great, thank you.
Larry, before you leave the stage, any closing thoughts that you have? I know we get to keep Kyra up here for a little bit, so.
Yeah, no, I just appreciate the opportunity, and I've got business cards there. It's got my LinkedIn QR code on the back. We are serious when we say we're genuine when we say we want to hear from you, because we know that we're breaking some eggs in doing this. We want to make sure that that we do this thoughtfully, and that we understand what we're asking of you as we move forward on this. So that dialogue is really important. So thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Great. Hopefully you can hang around a little bit as we go to the next one. Yep. All right. We'll transition quickly to our next panel.
All right.
I know, right? We need some intro music for those online. Hello, hello. All right. As we transition to the next panel, thank you guys for coming up. Jaime and Birgit, am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Can you guys introduce yourselves real quick before we get started?
I'm Birgit Smeltzer. I'm the director for the IT product subcategory under the IT category at GSA.
And I'm Jaime Martinez. I'm a contracting officer and division director on the multiple award schedule.
So we got the people who are doing the work in the trenches. So let's start. Kyra, we'll turn to you first. In the chat just now, we started with the data in the story. As this shifts from the insights you're getting to actual real world implementation, which we've talked about a little bit, when you say enterprise discipline, that means a lot of things to people inside of government, but for the rest of the room, what are you talking about? What does that mean?
And I appreciate the question because it's something we're working through, if I'm honest. A different approach to doing IT. And it means a few things. And I'm happy to talk a bit about it. You know, these episodic deals, the limited time discounts, you know, the flash sales. And I say flash, but a lot of them are running through 2027, 2028. So there's a commitment there. But we really want to get to durable solutions. So we want direct contracts. We want long-term opportunities. We want best prices across the catalog. We want optimized terms and conditions. We want coordinated renewals. So we talked about fragmentation. We want agencies to sync up wherever possible so that we can bring large demand at one time through a single process to industry to make it advantageous for you all. We talked a little bit or a lot about cybersecurity and issues there and accountability for pricing with the OEMs. So there are opportunities and some key points that we're hoping we can impress upon industry. And to be honest, there are things we're working through with agencies as well.
Well, no, and I appreciate the fact that it's both industry and agencies that you're looking for, right? Aggregating buying is super helpful for some of the folks in the room. You can get discounts when you have volume, right? It's pretty standard business practice. So we appreciate you saying that as well. All right, Jaime, we're excited to have a contracting officer up here. I'm sure you're thrilled to be up here.
On stage.
Wait for audience questions. All right, from afar and multiple award schedule perspective, what's actually changed under OneGov? Like, what is different now than before when we said, okay, just go get on the IT schedule 70, now multiple award schedule? So,
I mean, I thought your introduction was perfect about it being an evolution of what we're doing. And so I'm going to say the first thing I would say is nothing's changed, right? Everything agencies still have to make their decisions. They have to follow their procurement requirements, 8.4 for, buying. So all that stays the same. So I would say, and we're just using the multiple award schedule to utilize that. So everything that existed before continues to exist. I think the evolution part is now GSA is taking an active approach in understanding what agencies are buying. What are we buying across the government, and how can we therefore, I think, realize the full potential of the multiple award schedule instead of using it to just buy a value of one. Like, we know we're buying lots of these items. Let's leverage our buying power.
are you hello? Are you at the beginning of that kind of evolution right now, or are you midway through it and we're just seeing it kind of be applied to these OneGov deals? Where do you think
I think we're definitely at the beginning. This is just the initial stages, as we start, especially with the limited term deals, we're starting to get, I think one of the things we're seeing now is agencies are coming to us and saying, hey, like, why are we paying so much for this when this agency is paying a completely different price? So when we talked about transparency, we're seeing that transparency and we're using that, again, data-driven decision-making to help us understand where we can leverage the multiple award schedule in our negotiations.
Kyra, before we leave this kind of like general topic, I do want to go back to the data piece of this, right? I said at the beginning, I'll reiterate it. This is a continuation for 10, I don't know, Larry, how many, 15 years? How long have we been doing category? At least 10. So are you getting new, fresh data that's really helpful right now, or are you leveraging the better contracting initiative data? Are you leveraging the IT category management data from 2015? Like what is driving some of the decisions? Where's that data coming from, or is it mostly coming in new from agencies right now?
So we're getting smarter with technological advances as well.
Great.
Right. So governmental data is not awesome. That's a whole nother panel that we could talk about. But a lot of the information is in the federal procurement data system, FPDS, an integrated award environment. So we're learning from obligations that have already been made, right? We're able to use some technology to better understand what's in those contracts so that we can better kind of assess how much is going where and where their opportunities might exist. We're being more thoughtful about the data, right? So groups like ITVMO, we're not the only one. We might be coolest, but we're not the only one who have the charge to look across the federal space. You know, agencies are working very hard towards their mission with their budget, and they never had an opportunity to look up, right? And talk to their colleague across the street, across town. So I think with this charge, we have to do better with what we have, and we're recognizing opportunities to fill certain data gaps and incentivizing agencies to understand what we can do with better data so that they can help us in collecting better data.
All right, I'll put in a brief plug for ADI. I mean, this is part of the reason we exist. So as you guys are looking across organizations and as you need process updates and efficiencies from some of the data collection that government does, let us know. Maybe we can help you guys raise up some of that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Birgit, so I heard your title. Can you tell me what it is that you do? It sounds like you do a lot of work that makes Larry sound real smart at the end of the day.
Definitely, most definitely. No, so in my organization, we manage certain contract vehicles that are related to cloud software and hardware as well. So I became part of the OneGov team because of some of the work that we do on the major BPAs, where we do some things that are OneGov-like, procuring on behalf of an agency, and we're using some of those best practices in what we're doing here today.
Right. Thank you. That's helpful. All right. So we're trying to understand, many in the industry space are trying to understand how OneGov affects business models, right? So from an operational standpoint, you know, and we talked a little bit about this before, but I'm going to ask from your perspective, are we displacing resellers and integrators, repositioning them? I mean, we've heard a lot of people talk about them in different ways. And, you know, from ADI, our members really are looking to get the tech in the hands of the government partners as fast and as efficiently as possible. So what role do these guys have in your words?
And I really appreciated the questions you all had, because I think you got most of what I was going to talk about answered with the previous panel. So I will just kind of reiterate some of it.
Right.
So bear with me, please. But we're not here. OneGov isn't supposed to, or isn't meant to displace integrators, resellers, or distributors and those networks at all. It may reposition in some cases where they are in the ecosystem. So agencies, of course, will still need integration services. They're still going to need cleared personnel from contract support, logistics, mission expertise. So, you know, the complexities that we talked about before still will remain, but we're going to ease up on the fragmentation that Larry was talking about earlier. OEMs will become accountable to pricing and licensing. Integrators will help with the integration of these software services. Right now, we're just really talking software and cloud and AI. So resellers and integrators and distributors are still remaining essential for the deployment of security alignments, for deployment and security alignment and onboarding and lifecycle support for our agencies. The model elevates the value-added services over the transactional pass-through. So we definitely still see a need for integrator services, and even in a OneGov model, sometimes it just looks a little different than what it does today.
I'm going to stick with you for a second and ask you what the other question we had talked about before. So if transactional license pass through is less important in the process that we're talking about here, what does value add mean from your perspective?
So for us, if we look at value add, and this is what we're hearing from agencies as well as like engineering and system integration, cybersecurity, architecture and alignment, migration planning and execution is part of it, cleared workforce and secure deployments, change management and user enablement. We see a lot of training needed for what they're implementing. Big one, FinOps and cost optimization, and data governance and compliance support. So you might have heard of modular contracting, and we're just expecting to see more of that in this model. Opportunity shifts basically from a resale margin to mission delivery expertise.
It's helpful. All right, Jaime, let's switch back to you. Under the OEM contract structure, how do resellers and distributors actually participate, right? So what does that look like mechanically with Mass and FAR? And how does that differ from the way that OEMs and ISVs are participating?
So I would say, and I think Larry hit on this, I would look at the teaming arrangements that he mentioned. Like that's a great way to do it. Just you have two scheduled contractors coming together to deliver a total solution for an agency. That's one. The next one is, and it's called the contractor use of mass contracts, and it's under the OLM. If you type in GSA OLM, order level materials, which I've asked them to update the site because it looks confusing, but it's as Larry said, you can have a company can go purchase items from a contractor, OneGov contract, to fulfill a requirement. So you have two avenues for them to participate that I think leveraged, again, we're looking to leverage the multiple award schedule. So not cutting them out, just finding other opportunities, other avenues for them to participate. So yeah, so I would look at teaming arrangements to deliver a total solution, or using, you buying off that contract to deliver a solution.
You're gonna be a popular guy after this one. All right. Kyra, I'm going to ask this one a little bit differently. So we've seen a bunch of OneGov contracts announced. We've talked a little bit about what those look like. Help me understand, are those preferred? Are those considered a best in class? Are those considered something that is you're pointing agencies towards specifically, or are you guys still encouraging, looking across multiple other contractual pathways in order to make sure that competition is still robust? Help me understand how that looks.
So this is visibility, not preference, right? One of the things that Mass is very clear about is that we don't drive demand, right? We reflect it. So we are hearing that there is interest in these deals, and we are forging ahead. Some of them are being driven by agencies outreach and Happy with ID.me. We need this thing.
Yep.
And we put it out there. We have focused a little bit on larger companies, and that's kind of because of our size. We just don't have bandwidth. But we aren't turning conversations away. So if companies are interested in presenting these limited time offers, we can do that. And generally, there have been press releases associated with that as part of the process, right? We want to bring folks into the fold, both agencies and industry, but it is not our intent to create any exclusivity. There's no mandate that agencies use these deals. There's no sole source process in it that would keep an agency from using another competitor simply because a OneGov deal is there. If they can save money with one option, I mean, wouldn't you? Right. So we would encourage other companies to come to the table and present that. It's simply visibility in it, and no interest. We still have all the same concerns about vendor lock-in and competition, and we are confident that what we are doing is not perpetuating anything we've worked hard to avoid.
No, that's great. So this is a good point to ask. So for the ISVs or the OEMs that are in the room or watching online, if they want to participate, what are you looking for, and how has that evolved since the initial and early OneGov deals?
So you can email itvmo@gsa.gov to start the conversation. There's certain things that we've seen, and the team can keep me honest about this, that things have evolved around our intake forms. I'm getting in the weeds with you, right? But we have a document that we send out that says, hey, tell us what you want to offer. There's some things about term. We want deals for 18 months or longer, right? We understand that agencies need runway to take advantage of this. We want deals to be debundled, right? We want agencies to be able to access what they need and not something else with it, because that jeopardizes the value, for them. We would like for deals to include things that we know are commonly used. Right. We want these savings to be near term for them, or cost avoidance to be real for them. And so it should reflect something that is useful in the near term. What are some other, and those are things that we maybe didn't recognize up front, and we changed a little bit on. Are there other things that we rolled into the?
Yeah, I think the biggest ask, and you hit on it, is, what are agencies buying? What are they buying from you as an OEM, or what, and where can you give us a discount on that? Again, it's if you know that, hey, multiple agencies are buying this product, that's what we really want to see, as opposed to maybe, hey, this is something brand new, we want to try it out, not really looking to, see if it'll work, but actually realize those cost savings.
I do want to hit on that point though for a second. Is everything based on a buying intention at this point in time? Or are you looking, because the administration is pushing policy down, right? So AI adoption is a perfect example. And we've seen the OneGov deals come out around large language models, but AI adoption is new. You agencies want it, but they don't necessarily know what they want. So like if somebody were to come to you with a product that they've been developing that has AI in it, is that something you would also listen to as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're not going to turn away a discount, right? If it's going to make it
Okay.
on there, we want it.
Okay.
Yep.
That's helpful.
And AI is a little bit different because it is new, and agencies are learning how to use it. So it made it a cost-effective way to experiment.
Got it.
Right.
Okay. That's helpful. Let's talk about a little bit about small business here. So obviously there's a small business set aside. They're legally, the thresholds are legally in place. So what does this do, and does it change anything under this OEM first model? Either of you.
This is my CO. So no, but just doubling down, this is an area that has not changed, right? Small businesses are integral to the ecosystem. Primes are expected to demonstrate meaningful subcontract agreements. All of those things still exist. And what we've heard from agencies and in conversations, there are nuanced values and opportunities that small businesses bring to the table. Emerging technologies, mission services, our unique strength in this space, integration, some engineering things, all of those opportunities still exist. And we would hope that small businesses stay in the conversation and in the ecosystem. And we believe that they can.
Okay.
Would you add something?
Yeah, and again, I'm just going to reiterate, I think there's a chance to partner with some of these OEM deals that maybe, I don't know, maybe they didn't exist before, maybe they weren't highlighted before, but now that, hey, there's this OneGov deal, you're a small business, it's an opportunity that's maybe being highlighted to partner.
Okay. Jaime, one of the questions that we have heard is, I'm going to do a OneGov. I have a OneGov partnership that expires after a certain period of time. I may change and adjust pricing. Things may evolve. Your agency customers, how are they tracking some of the, evolutions of what these particular agreements look like over time?
That's a good question. I think we are tracking it, right? We're tracking those deals and when they expire and what do we need to do and re-engage with the OEMs or the companies that have those deals. So we are actively tracking to make sure that we know when they expire, when we need to re-engage, what's been the usage of them?
Mhm.
Hey, if this deal really didn't hit, is there something else that we should be looking at that we know? And again, going back, working with the agencies, understanding what they need and where we can then maybe go back and say, hey, look, this deal didn't work, but this is what we're hearing we need from them. And let's see if we can build something there.
Yeah. And one of the questions that we have, and Larry, this may be for you later, but how are you guys helping to drive some of the throughput through some of those contracts in real time? Or is it mostly driven by agency demand?
Yeah, I think agency demand one.
Yeah.
But I think also Birgit's team does a lot of outreach.
Yeah, we have a team of subject matter experts, mostly on the cloud and software side, that are working with agencies every day, almost from when they hit the office till they go home. There's if any of you hear of agencies that need to have a discussion about what is out there, our team can be reached at cloudinfo@gsa.gov. And if you happen to send the email to the ITVMO@gsa.gov email address, they'll get to us as well. We work very closely together. So we talk with agencies, we talk with industry. So we have an idea of what is out there. We hear of agencies telling us, well, this limited term offer isn't going to work for us because we already have this, but we don't need that. And that's where the whole debundling conversation came in. So we've now decided that we've come to the agreement that we should be looking at individual items that agencies need and not necessarily what is new and flashy out there. And agencies do want to try new things. It's not that, but they also have needs for certain items that they need a discount on, basically, or they need at a lower price.
Okay, I've only got about 3 more questions, so you guys get your questions ready. We open it up. Jaime, I really like this question. So, how does OneGov interact with existing contract vehicles like SOUP, like Polaris? I would say CIO FP4, but that is no longer a viable contract. STARS 3, how do they work together?
I'm going to say it works the same way they work now. I mean, we're not looking to displace those contracts. And I don't want to sound like a broken record. Like, it's just an evolution. That's all we're really doing. But yeah, those contracts still work, they still have a function. The OneGov construct, again, it's just building upon the multiple award schedule. So the way they work currently with the multiple award schedules, the way they will, again, continue to work. And there's opportunities for those contractors who are under GWAC, like I mentioned, can purchase off the multiple award schedule. So I see everything as being complementary here, not they're not rubbing up against each other, they're just working together.
Okay. Kyra, one question for you and then one for each of you guys just to close it out. So 12 months ahead, what does success look like for you as OneGov matures?
I think we want to get more strategic, right? I talked about lots of LTOs and lots of engagement. We don't have the picture up, but tons of icons. It looks super cool. But we want to get to quality, right? And not to suggest that anything is not of high quality now, but we need these direct contracts. We need full catalogs at best prices. We need agency coordination. We need the government acting as an enterprise where agency renewals are aligned so that we can provide to industry what we suggest, kind of the streamlined and centralized ordering and reduced administrative burdens. We want adoption of agencies based on value, not mandates. So we want to see, and we're starting to see agencies come to us, right? We want the carrot, not the stick, because we believe in what we're doing, and we want to have more agency partners in the future, and just this mature ecosystem that's built for sustainability in the long run, and enterprise-wide, the federal enterprise accountability to act as an enterprise the way we're looking for you all to work with us. It's
great. Okay. Closing question for you guys. You have industry in the room, you have industry online. I know you've been talking in a bunch of different forms about it, but what does a partnership look like with industry going forward? What would you like to see from industry that would be the most beneficial and helpful, and how can we best be engaged with you all? Birgit, you want to start at your end?
Sure. Thank you so much. We can't do what we do without industry partners. It's important for us to hear from you what you, how you feel the model can work. We're still maturing OneGov. We've got ideas of what it should look like at the end. There's still wiggle room there, right? We want to hear from you as integrators, as small business. What are you hearing from agencies? How do you feel this can work to where you don't feel like there's replacement, but more I guess a common approach. So again, we are inviting you to have those conversations with us. We really appreciate your support on that.
Yeah. I would hope that everybody sees this as a real opportunity, right? Change is hard and it's scary, but there's some really big brains in the room and in this space who could come up with some good paths forward, strategic, thoughtful. I'm reiterating Birgit's point, and we're in a unique space in this administration that there is a push. I mean, this thing is happening, and so let's do it together. I would love to. I'm happy to talk about challenges. We know those, but I am confident there are solutions as well. All right, and so to have some folks join the table with us and be candid about the legitimate non-starters, but also say, but maybe this, right? And we're having some of those conversations, but I believe the companies that do that soonest, I think really have an opportunity to help us build something that works well for you and for everybody. So I hope you'll accept that challenge and bring that creativity to the table.
Jaime.
Well, as a contracting officer, I'm going to say get a multiple award schedule contract. Like that's always the first conversation we have is, do you have a multiple award schedule contract? Yes, great. I think that's one. And then the next one is to know your products or services and how they work across the federal government and where there's a chance to leverage the buying power. I mean, those are the two big ones for me. When we sit down with OEMs and talk, like, hey, do you have a multiple award schedule? Why not? What can we do to help you get on board? And then what are you offering us that can help the government?
Got it. Okay. We've got time for some questions from the audience. All right, we'll start with Sherry and then go this way.
Yeah, scoping question. So you've mentioned cloud, you've mentioned AI, LLM. What about data centers? Data center as a service, is that covered by you?
It's not something we have looked into for OneGov yet.
No.
So,
because
yeah,
I might suggest that there's policy drivers,
right.
And okay, well, maybe we'll send an email to you, and that'll be for the first.
Thanks. We welcome that.
Question, I guess, from a procurement standpoint, as agencies, and I'll use the DOT example again. So the DOT selects an OEM, the OEM selects, a partner. How do you ensure? And I don't know that GSA is in that business of policing that, right? But at the same time, how do you ensure that OEMs aren't selecting friends and family, right? Because up to now, it has always been a fair competition to where, you have to, if you're bidding on an opportunity, let's say, you have to ensure that, your subcontracting goals, who your team is all of that is put forward. But now in this case, I guess in some ways, OEMs don't have to do that, right? They can select an integrator to come in with them to do the integration. So I'm just wondering, like, if that's been thought through at some point of how you make sure OEMs, again, aren't selecting friends and family.
I guess I don't know what's changed there that would change to make it that way. I mean, right, again, when we mentioned the teaming arrangement, both contractors have a multiple award schedule contract, and they need to be able to respond to the requirements that the agency puts forth. I mean, if they both have it, then it could be friends and family of the OEM that have it, but it's their teaming arrangement. They're they're both parties to it. The subcontracting plans and all the goals for the agencies still remain the same. That hasn't changed either. So I guess that haven't thought of that as being an issue, but thanks for raising it. I think we'll have to, maybe we can talk to see how that would apply and where a solution, if a solution's needed, to make one.
And I can add a little bit to that as well, because that's just one scenario, right? Where the OEM chooses their subcontractor or in this case, we talked about earlier, an integrator. But there's also the situations where agencies, conduct a modular contracting deal where they procure the software licenses, for instance, and then select their own integrator to do the integration, the operations and FinOps, all the things that they need. Maybe it's different contractors for the whole deal. So it's not a one type of scenario. So there are still plenty of opportunities for competition in that space.
Other questions? Raise your hand, I'll come to you. While we wait for other questions, I have another one to follow up. Can you talk to us a little bit about the role that some of the political appointees within the General Service Administration are playing with OneGov going forward? Are they, very supportive? Talk to us a little bit about where they're at right now, and the various support that you have across the organization.
I think there's significant support within GSA, FAST team, administrator, OMB. Contract consolidation is a focus. Our work is aligned with executive orders. So there's a lot of interest in ensuring that we're active in securing deals, that industry is at the table and they're helping to facilitate those discussions. And it kind of is why we're going. This thing is going in that direction. And we're getting a lot of support and trust in thinking through strategies. And we've been in our seats a long time, right? So we have relationships with agencies. So we care, continue to care, and will continue to care in years to come. So we're trying to implement a process that is practical, for agencies, that addresses needs that have been identified over the last 5 years in advance of this administration. So I think the work that we're doing is a long time coming and really based in need and designed to support where we know that there are gaps. And fortunately, our administration trusts us to put forth strategies that do that.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that. It sounds like they're creating the space for you guys to do the work that you have long needed to get done. Okay.
Hi, Julie Dunn, Monument Advocacy. I had a question related to the revolutionary FAR overhaul and the whole category management hierarchy. As you know, there's this new undefined category called required use, and there's best in class and so on. I'm curious how you see, and I see some smiles, how you see the OneGov arrangements fitting within that hierarchy, because the definition is still out there. We don't know what it means yet. So I'm just curious if you can react to that.
We're still waiting too, Julie. So here's the thing. We need a lever to incentivize companies to come to the table, right? But we're not going to do that arbitrarily. It's going to be based on some things that make sense for government. All the terms are not defined, and we're still waiting to see how it plays out. But OMB is extremely supportive of the work that we're doing. And essentially, once we are able to secure these optimized contracts and best prices, and we're confident that this is really the optimal opportunities for agencies, there is the possibility that these contracts would be designated as mandatory use. So that does not mean that every agency shall work with Oracle or shall work with Google. Agencies have to do their own market research to make a determination of what vendor or what OEM is best for them. And if they choose a certain vendor who has a optimal, best priced, good terms and conditions, and a OMB designation of mandatory use or required use, then an agency should use it for common good. Now, agencies have nuanced needs, mission-driven focuses. This is not a one-size-fits-all. We don't expect 24 of these. So don't put that on my performance plan. We won't have 24 of those. But there are some areas, there are some areas where it would make sense to get smarter about it, to bring the whole volume of the federal enterprise together, to get pricing commensurate with that. And agencies use this. Don't spend time on this one. Focus in those areas where you have specific needs. So we don't have exactly how it will play out, but generally our goal is to secure contracts that are so ideal for common goods that it would have that tier 4 OMB designation.
Have you, in your OneGov contracts to date that have been publicly announced, are you seeing DOW kind of raise their eyebrow a little bit and show more interest in some of those specific ones? I know that you guys are they're your biggest customer, but curious if the OneGov has piqued interest over at DOW.
There's definitely been interest across government as a whole, including DOW. We take a lot of calls from state, local, DOW, and the CFO Act agencies as well. Whether they choose to use the multiple award schedule to gain access to the deals, or whether they choose to use them as leverage for price negotiations, we welcome either way. It's taxpayer dollars that we are saving across the organization or across the government. So, but there's definitely interest from all sides.
Thank you. And then just to reiterate, the state and local folks, I know this is a pretty sophisticated crowd, but can you say a little bit more about state and local ability to access some of this as well?
So it depends on the limited term offer and normally the OEMs will let us know, or the resellers in some cases will let us know what entities or what government entities it's open to, and it is stated in our GSA Advantage, where they can be accessed. However, we do talk to state and local about using those prices as leverage, because they shouldn't pay more than what the federal government pay, and it is then up to them to use the negotiations for the limited time offers that they cannot access.
Yeah. Any other questions from the audience?
Hi there, Chris Breathedick. I'm in the GovCon practice group here at Venable, actually. My question was about pricing in OneGov, actually. So I know that the GSA has been focused in recent years on sort of moving away from lowest overall cost alternative towards best value for the mass program. GSA actually asked Congress to change that language in the statute for the program, and that went through in the NDAA last December. Is the goal for OneGov best value, or is it best lowest cost?
Yes. As a multiple award schedule contract, when you're negotiating, you're just negotiating that item, right? It's that one item. So when we're looking at finding pricing to put on the multiple award schedule, it's like, what's the lowest price that we can get for that? Hey, what again, leveraging the buying power of the government, and what are agencies paying for it? What price can we get it on the multiple award schedule? Right now, hopefully that would then in turn be, the best pricing and most advantageous price. But we're really looking at just what's that line item and what's that price for it.
Makes sense. Larry, you want to say something? Hey, wait, hold on.
A lot of that best value is best value versus LPTA, right? Low price technically acceptable. And there's a lot, you guys probably know this way better than I, but there's a lot of nuance to technically acceptable. There's gray market goods, there's unauthorized resellers, there's refurbished goods, there are supply chain risks. And so a lot of what the best value discussion is around making sure that that it's not just the lowest price for a widget that's driving the acquisition decision, but that you're actually getting the quality and the value that you're asking for, and that you're not getting some, cheap substitute that's actually from a banned source. So that's one of the nuances to the low price versus best value. But to Jaime's point, getting on the schedule. So the schedule is, it's a catalog. It's a multiple award schedule. Getting on the schedule, competitive price, commercially available goods. Those are the main criteria. It's that best value comes in when the agencies are using the schedule to get their enterprise packages that they're looking for, their solutions.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, again, going back to agency choice and agency decision making, they make that best value decision. So I guess there's two parts of that, right? Lowest price on schedule, best values for them to make their decision on the procurement.
All right. Any closing questions for the group? All right. Well, thank you. Give them a round of applause. Thank you guys for taking the time today.